All right, hello everybody. So today is still Sunday, March 3rd, and we are bringing you a Block Digest special edition with Ziya from Iran. So, how are you doing today, Ziya?
Hey there. No, I should just go silent for a minute.
All right. So, Rick, Janine, did you guys enjoy your luxurious break?
Oh yeah, man. Got a fresh cup of coffee here. Good to go. It's been a long weekend, but been anticipating this discussion for a while. Should be fun.
Oh, I'm live again. Sorry.
No, you're fine, man. Alrighty.
Me?
So,
You got some coffee too? Are you good to go?
Did I grab coffee? I don't drink coffee.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope you got a bathroom break in or something, because yeah, it's time for the discussion we've been waiting for. So let's get right to it, man.
all right. So, Ziya, you were you're kind of being ignored a little bit there with the lightning torch for a while. You know, people playing monkey in the middle with you, and we ended up having to start a whole different torch with BIP 47 before people finally acknowledged you and sent the lightning torch your way. So, why don't you tell us a bit about what that was kind of like dealing with, and what you did with the torch after you finally got it?
Well, it was frustrating at first trying to get hold of the torch. It was like uh, in the hands of some like big players, investors, like institutions and all of that. So I had no hope of getting it, especially that time when it was like in the hands of like digital assets from Fidelity. And everybody rooted for me, so they helped me a lot, like Hodel, the cat astronaut. So and yeah, there was a lot of encouraging involved from the sphere, the whole Bitcoin sphere actually. And then like the first time that I saw it coming, it was from Bitcoin Magazine. uh, they asked the U.S. Treasury on like if it's okay or if they're not going to be get fined or jailed because if they pass it to me. So they I don't know if they were like expecting to get a response. I didn't expect a response from the U.S. Treasury on Twitter. Then they sent it to a Welsh guy who's been like declaring all the time that I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna send it to Zia. So they sent it to him I got it. So I passed the torch to another Iranian guy in the U.S. He's got some good plans for the next one. I'm not gonna reveal anything, so it will come as a surprise. And the first time that like I was bit hit a bit in the uh, and I was a bit disappointed that that I may not get the torch. It was when I think somebody suggested that Charlie Shrem can't pass the torch to me because he's in the U.S. and like he was, or I don't know if he's still under like some security, like I don't know, under police supervision or something, and he may not uh, like screw that up and get caught and that. So and he passed it to another guy. And then I saw it with Vijay, like the writer from that piece of article called "The Bullish Case on Bitcoin," and yeah, I actually thought to myself that I'm gonna get it this time because I offered to translate his article into Persian into Farsi, and I thought that he would be like cool with it. But he said that he's sorry that he can't pass the torch to me, because like he's not that young to go through some, like, if there's some legal problems happen for him or anything, and he sent it to Adam back. So the first thing that I did when I received the torch was that I announced it to the Iranian community, and they liked it. There was uh, a lot of talk about it, and it was reflected in different like Telegram channels and different places. So yeah, I announced it, and I thought to myself that who could have it after me? And I wanted to keep the censorship resistant trend, so I suggested that the Tor project would like take it from me, but they didn't answer, and as expected. Yeah, and now I sent it to another Iranian friend abroad.
And that's fantastic, honestly. Like, you're right. It was, man, it was something a little disappointing about seeing the way that it was developing whenever we started talking about, on Twitter, the Bitcoin Twitter sphere, just talking about like, yeah, let's send it to Iran. And then all of a sudden, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, I don't know. There's some rules there. And
Yeah, it was you kind of just cut out there, Rick. But
I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's really like, it might sound like strong language, but like I was really kind of fucking disgusted with like how people were reacting with you trying to get the torch. Like the whole thing started with Hodlnaut just like doing something organic, and like it kept perpetuating as like this way to stress test the network in terms of liquidity. And then it got to the point where it wasn't even doing that. It just became like this meme for like celebrities in the space to go like, ooh, look at me, or like companies to grab and try to use as a PR stunt. And it was just kind of like, are you guys serious? Like, we're going to sit here with a technology that allows you to send money anywhere in the world you want without permission, without asking, or like somebody being able to stop it, and you're not going to send it to somebody in a place like Iran? Like, you're going to self-censor yourself? You're going to like you're going to just not use Bitcoin for what it's for. You're going to show people that you are scared to actually put it to use. And it was kind of disgusting. And, I'm really glad to see it finally got to you. And maybe, the meme of the torch can be taken back to show what Bitcoin actually is, like something you can't stop or scare people from using.
Yeah, I agree on most of that. So I think there's like being a celebrity kind of thing, the celebrity kind of atmosphere surrounding the torch started from Jack holding the torch. So it started from that point, and you can't deny that it had like some impact to it. So a lot of people like to get their hands on that torch to just get the publicity they want. But I guess if it was like done and like not like this much publicity made it a bit difficult for them to send it. So you could see that they like why they are afraid. So because like all eyes are on them. So
Yeah, but I mean, it's Bitcoin. It's the Lightning Network. Like Udi was like the first person to point this out. I say I sent it to some random Twitter account. How can you prove that? Like any one of those people could have just air quote passed it on and then sent it to you, and there would be absolutely zero like possibility of somebody being able to prove they sent it to you. Like, it's like in my mind, like even with that attention, there was no excuse. Like, we have all of these tools in Bitcoin to do these things, and nobody would actually use them.
yeah, So like I would like imagine that one day that we could like have a wasabi wallet kind of torch, but then yeah, like nobody can announce who that he's like sending something to another one. So in that way, like the B47 torch we started, like that was cool. Like it was there was no trace of who's doing what, but there was proof that it was moving. So like I would like to see more like like more kind of movements like this in the Bitcoin sphere. So
Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of like the 47 torch with the paynims. Like nobody knows who has it. Like I've had one person who ended up getting it after me, like approach me in private, but it's like aside from that, I have no clue where it's gone, like who has it now. It's like and I think that's like why when like Laurent did that, like I came up with the idea of doing it this different way to like prove that point. Like people say that Bitcoin isn't private enough. It's not private at all. Well, okay, go look at this Paynim torch and tell me who has it right now. You can't.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I don't know. It's nice to see the torch issue resolve itself this way, but we kind of wanted to get a little bit of like your perspective and experience as somebody living in Iran. Like what is it like trying to interact with like the rest of the global economy or the Bitcoin ecosystem? Like I know like over last year, like a lot of exchanges were just arbitrarily closing the accounts of Iranian citizens and pretty much stealing their money. And it's like, how common is that kind of interaction with businesses in the ecosystem? Like what are kind of the ways that you can try to deal with things like that or get around it?
That's very very common. So you should imagine like having like being a sanctioned like country, and like nobody wants to touch you, nobody wants to come close to you, like even if you like take everything into account and go to extreme measures and like assure them that nobody's gonna find out, and that you're not doing anything wrong, and that like everything is fine, but still they are the like foreign companies and foreign businesses like are afraid, they would say this to themselves, that what if anyone knows about this, then like we're screwed. So like our company gets shut down, or we are getting fined, or we go on the like I don't know, sanctions list or SD list, or how what do they call it. So it's very difficult to do business with foreigners. So uh, maybe some foreigners would like to do business inside of Iran and like keep everything here, but like most people don't want to like be associated with us. And in the Bitcoin sphere, so as long as the business does not is not a custodian or a trusted kind of a business, like exchanges and all of that, it's okay. But if it's a custodian kind of a thing, like an exchange or anything like that, like you can't. It's like you're living on the like with with a very very high risk of losing. You're probably gonna lose your coins. So it's what I say to anyone in the Iranian Bitcoin community, that I tell them, if you hold your coins in an exchange, you are willingly giving them the permission to take your coins. It's not only that, not your keys, not your coins. It's actually more than. It's more like that you're gonna be you're gonna be a victim. So and you know you're gonna be butchered here, and your coins gonna be taken. So why you do this? So this happened a lot. It happened like I don't know. The most famous of them is the BitTorrent exchange. The one I think it's in Nevada. Like it closed a big number of Iranian accounts. A lot of Iranians were using that exchange, and they had like Iranian people registered and verified on their exchange. So it was very odd that an exchange lets you verify there and gives you the assurance that we do business with you, but then closes your account very easily and detects you very easily because like it knows that you're in Iranian because you verified your account there. Uh, it actually closed some people's accounts from some Iranians who were not in living in Iran. So that was another thing. So and there was Polonius. I think Polonius gave back some of the money to people, to Iranian people, but still, I know that there were a lot of people who lost money there too. So it's pretty difficult, I would say, to do this kind of business. Uh, some people are trying to do uh, like new kinds of businesses nowadays. Are thinking of doing like new kinds of businesses with like for foreign people using Bitcoin as a method of payment. But yeah, it's gaining. This idea is gaining popularity. So we may talk about it more later. But yeah, it's giving the opportunity to some businesses, like small to medium-sized businesses in Iran, to think of another way to do this.
Yeah, and another thing I noticed, it's not just financial data or coins or what have you that is having a lot of issues when Iranian people are trying to use foreign businesses. It also is even just things like, messaging systems or project management stuff like I saw a few months ago where Slack was shutting down people's accounts just for logging in from Iran. I assume under the assumption that if they were using Slack, there was maybe a possibility that they would be doing business there. And Slack was like, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't use us for that purpose. And so they were just closing people's accounts. It also turned out that they were closing people's accounts who didn't even log in from Iran. It was just people who had Iranian names. So they were doing it on a name basis, not even on an IP address basis, which was really disgusting.
Yeah, this happened a while ago. So I know of a lot of teams and projects who lost, even lost some project details and all of that in this event. And there was like this happens a lot from different services. It's not the first time. Uh, the Slack incident was uh, yeah, the Slack incident was a more recent one. Like the Digital Ocean also like kicked out Iranians from their services a while ago, and like based on like the thing you said about not based on IP addresses, but based on user IDs. This actually, I read an article before that PayPal did this too, with people with like people like send like based on people's names and things they wrote down in their app. So they like figured out that this guy must be an Iranian, so close their account.
Yeah, I think there was an incident recently where someone had their, was it PayPal? I think it might have been PayPal. I don't, if anyone correct me if I get the service wrong, but there was a payment service that closed someone's account or suspended someone's account because they had the word Cuba or Cuban, even though I don't think that their payment had anything to do with being in Cuba or Cubans or anything. They just blocked it based on a keyword that was in the transaction metadata.
Yeah, I hope I'm here and like you guys can hear me all right now because yeah, it's just it seems like there's such a no legal clarity. I mean, like people are just confused about, well, where do these sanctions apply and when especially when it comes to this space and I just I mean like I honestly like whenever all that stuff was going on, I really wanted to say like, hey, toss me the the LN trust chain. I'm going to send it over there. And like even myself, I was like kind of frightened by the idea of like, well, like maybe there is something that's going to happen if I do this because it's just like they leave so much gray zone there to define things as they go. And it's just, I mean, like just now, I don't know why my internet shut down on me, but I mean, I haven't really had any problems this morning. But as soon as I started talking in this chat, all of a sudden I get, I don't know where, came back on through a VPN just to be sure about it because I mean, it's just such a gray zone that people don't really know where to operate. And it's upsetting that all that went on, but I mean like at least we showed with this technology that we could still do business, we could still transact and have discussions, and this is something that we should be doing because without discussions and like we're just like closed off from each other and we don't know what we're going through, it just leads to all these questions about, well, is that okay or is it not okay, this and that lack of clarity is really like all the problems like which I'm seeing with censorship in general. It's just like there's very vague terms of conditions and those they can be used against you in some which way they want to fandangle the definition in court, and it just gets people scared. But I mean like luckily we do see people like the Bitcoin Magazine guys on Twitter. They posted that question to the Treasury, and like you're saying, I mean, doubt we'd really get an actual response from them because they don't want to make things crystal clear. But I think it was in the thread of that tweet. You could see like we were talking about. This is technology, and this is something that is it falls under non-commercial. This is like still pretty much experimentation. Like, why are we all so scared? And it's because there is this underlying pretense that we all know we're all being surveilled all the time. And, to do these discussions or transactions with all this legal gray zone for them to operate in, it's just a scary place for people to operate. It's unfortunate, but I think things like, we're starting to see that change a little bit with here in space.
Mm-hmm. And, it's, before I bring up like another question regarding the sanctions, I just kind of, I wanted to like reiterate like how important it is, at least symbolically, that like this, you are actually able to acquire the torch in Iran, because it's not just recently with things like that this has been an issue. Like this kind of hesitance and like self-censorship goes back almost through Bitcoin's entire history. Like Amir Taki, unless I'm wrong, is actually ethnically Iranian. And he, like years ago, back in like 2010 or 11, if I'm remembering my years right, actually wanted to translate the Bitcoin core software into Farsi. And Jeff Garzik wanted to kick him out, or I actually think did kick him out of the Bitcoin IRC dev channel just for suggesting that, because he was scared people would see this as attempting to enable bad activity. just by simply translating the software so that Iranian citizens could actually use it and read what it was saying.
I see. So I saw Rick mentioning that he's connecting through a VPN. So, where are you, Rick?
I think I'm in Switzerland right now, but I don't know. We're changing every couple of seconds.
So, like, we use VPN here, like a lot. So, I'm not able to talk with you guys unless that I connect to a VPN. So, this was just a curiosity. So, about what you said, yeah, actually, Amir Taki was mentioned today to me by Adam Fisker from Wasabi Wallet. Like, he wanted to get the torch from me, but then he had second thoughts about this, and he said like, let's see what happened with Amir Taki or with Cody Wilson. So they may like use this like gray area that Rick was mentioning to just like get people who are doing some work uh, which is threatening the state to like to stop their control or over something like Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's part of like what I think is like the root of the issue is like people being scared to do that publicly, and I get that, but it's like I said when we were first talking about the torch, is it's Lightning Network. Like, you have no idea who's actually receiving it. You just see an invoice from a Twitter handle to obscure things. And I mean, just even the BIP 47 torch, it shows like you can do things like this with plausible deniability where there's nothing to point at and go, you broke some law. And, at the end of the day, like, we can build all the tools in the world to enable shit like this, but people, like, frankly, need to grow some balls and use them, or like none of this means anything.
Yeah, I agree.
But as far as like the sanctions were concerned, though, I mean, you've kind of talked a lot about like exchanges and like custodial businesses and things of that nature. I was kind of wondering like what are like the complications and issues like actually trying to like purchase physical goods. Like what kind of like friction and like barriers to actually purchasing a physical good with Bitcoin and having that shipped to Iran are there? Like, are there ways people can deal with that, or is that another thing that pretty much anybody in your country is just closed off from doing?
So, like buying stuff from outside, from foreign countries, uh, was like I never seen a place that serves Iranian customers. Maybe one of the main reasons is that there's no method of payment for us, so we can't pay with Visa, Mastercard, PayPal, anything. So we don't have like foreign bank accounts, anything. So like Amazon can't serve us because like we don't have any method of payment to pay them. But aside from that, I think that they don't want to be associated with us. That's the case. Because like if you would like to have uh, like Iranian customers, so you just add a Bitcoin as a method of payment, and would like buy that, but buy from them using Bitcoin, and they can ship to us. So I I did buy stuff from foreign countries with Bitcoin, and they ship actually. So why I say that they don't want to be associated with us, it's because that I see like Bitcoin businesses, maybe some of them that maybe the example that I'm going to use is not considered that much as a Bitcoin business nowadays, but like Purse.io, you know that website?
Yeah.
So like they've gone like full Bcash now. So, but Purse.io was like it provides Bitcoin as a method of payment, and it's their main thing. But they don't ship to Iran. So, I don't know why is that, but it gives me this conclusion that they don't want to be associated with us. They don't want to serve Iranian customers. So there's actually no way from us aside from some businesses that like which are kind enough to let us be their customers. Like recently, not recently, like about 5 or 6 months ago, I bought Open Dimes from the Open Dime website. I think it's called CoinKite or something. So they do ship to Iran. They accept Bitcoin and they do ship to Iran. So I would like to see more businesses like this, but they are very limited now. Digital assets, they're not digital assets, digital services like something like buying VPNs. That's okay. We've been using them, and I've been like buying VPNs using Bitcoin and all of that for years now. But because like they don't know that actually that they are not it's not that explicit that they're dealing with Iranian customers, but businesses that require shipping like stuff or like be directly associated with us, they even if they add Bitcoin as a method of payment, they don't want to serve us still.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about some of these markets just in the sense of like there is this market, the cannabis market here in Colorado, where it's like people see this as they're under a regulatory spotlight because it's such a new emerging market that people are trying to capture, and so they don't take extra risk. I mean, it's very few and far between that you see somebody take this extra added risk of doing something like accepting Bitcoin because they are kind of worried about that might bring an extra spotlight on them that could lead towards their eventual being taken down or censored or being bankrupt through different lawsuits. I mean, it's always sort of up in the air, like we're talking about, as far as just there's no real legal clarity there. And, we're trying to get that stuff built out here for certain aspects like that. But it really is just aggravating from a standpoint of like where, you know, we were supposed to talk about like free speech is like the most important thing, and like the discussions of diplomacy always outmeasure just sort of like staying in our echo chambers, and but it seems like they want us to do that. They don't want us to understand that every one of these major groups, whether it's traditional bankers or Iranians or people from wherever country, some are group, these are all individuals, and they should be treated as such. And we shouldn't be looking at it as like a swath of a whole group of people we can't talk to or transact with, just based on some a few people in the way that they handle the global politics. It's something that we need to work around, and I think we're going to do that. And I'm curious a little bit about how you've seen like the Bitcoin mining business. Has that been booming a little bit over there with the introduction of like those cheap electricity rates? We were kind of speculating that a bunch of people would be moving over there to sort of set up mining shops. Has that sort of seen an uptick in business?
Well, I can't give you like exact numbers from like people entering the mining scene in Iran because like if you're if you're a miner everywhere in the world, you prefer to keep a low profile. So uh, Now consider this in Iran. So you would try to be as much low profile as possible. So, but
Very
I've
private.
seen the interest. I've seen the interest. So I've seen a lot of. I've seen an uptick in foreign people, foreign investors in mining who visit Iran and like try to get some info and see how everything is done here. And yeah, so you said that it's like a cheap electricity rate here, and there's an abundance of energy here, so energy sources. Uh, it's more like this. There are a different kind of rates for electricity here in Iran. Uh, like most of them are subsidized. So, one reason that some investors may be afraid to come here and invest is that the government would kick them out or like confiscate their devices or anything, because it's giving them like subsidized electricity to foreign investors, but that doesn't make sense for the government maybe. And like yeah, so it's like about like 1 cent per kilowatt hour, which is pretty cheap. And but it's subsidized. So most foreign investors that come here like uh, try to find the best way to do mining here, and which is like go and do a contract with with the power plant. And most power plants here in Iran are private. They are not they are not created or uh, handled by the government. So they are private companies, and do a contract with them and buy electricity directly from so they buy an electricity which is off the grid, and it does not concern the government. Uh, it would like cost them more. It would be like about like 1.5 cents to 2 cents, but it's still pretty cheap, and it's very good for them to and it would be very profitable for them to use such an electricity for the for the mining business. There are some other concerns about like the government, which is well, the Iranian government is famous for being unpredictable. So most investors would like say it's unpredictable, and like they may just change their mind just in like in no time, and that would like ruin their business, and like maybe they give higher electricity rates or anything, because there's like although the private companies that produce electricity like deal with the miners without subsidized electricity, and it's a completely free market for the electricity then. But still, the gas resources, which are used mainly for producing electricity here in Iran, are said to be subsidized and are provided for the private power plants on a very cheap price. But the thing is that the Iranian government cannot sell its gas to the world because nobody is paying for it, and it's very difficult to build infrastructure for like selling and sending gas resources to other countries. And there have been reports from the government that they've sold like 2 or 3 years of gas to neighboring countries, but they didn't get the money for it. So it's not. They call it a subsidized gas price, but it's actually not the case. It may not be the case because there's no one buying. So, and the thing is, when you're dealing with the government, the only good thing is actually there's nothing above them. So they cannot go and complain to another people to another entity or anything. So it's a completely free market. So you either sell or you don't sell. So if you're selling, I'm willing to buy from you like for an electricity rate of like 2 cents or something. If you're not selling, just go sit on your this abundance of gas resources and do nothing with them.
Okay, so there's pretty much like two levels of like subsidies here. There would be like the direct subsidy of the electricity price, and then also like possibly or arguably like a second subsidy for the actual fuel generating the electricity, and those are kind of like two independent things.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so it seems to me like most of the risk would really be on like any kind of government initiated price changes or like equipment seizures. I mean, even like without the direct like electricity subsidy to 1 cent, like a 1.5 cents, like 2 cents, that's still very cheap and competitive with most of the rest of the world. And I mean, even associating or operating a business in Iran, like there's no way to prove that like some Bitcoin mined was mined in Iran. Like if you propagate that privately, like there's nothing actually tying Bitcoin you mine to that equipment.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's definitely a risky thing, but I could definitely see why a lot of people would be willing to take that risk and why we might see some actual growth in that in the future going forward.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing it because of the uptick in the interest. Because I know that this interest is like research in the area because you want to see how everything goes, and like some of them I think it started like kind of a test phase, like bring a couple of hundred miners and see how everything goes and how all payments are conducted and all of that, and if the electricity from the power plants are stable enough, because it's Iran, it's not that uh, like high tech. So you could imagine that some of them need to test it out before they bring their whole investment into Iran. But this shows the like since the bear market started, so like and mining Bitcoin was not profitable in some countries, so uh, we've seen this uptick in testing and in investors visiting Iran. So I would see it like flourish a bit more in the like next I don't know 6 months or so.
I mean,
Yeah.
even in a bull market, it would make sense because you're still that much more competitive if electricity prices stay cheap.
Yeah, but in the bull market, like they thought to themselves that we're not willing to take the risk. But now there are a lot of people who have like devices which are turned off and they can't mine with them. So I heard from some guys in Europe and some people in Japan. Actually, Wiz contacted me once and asked about the mining sphere in Iran. Because I saw him tweet out that he's like mining at a loss, but he's keeping it going because he's not quitting. And yeah, the bear market took like made them to pay attention to Iran because now there are people who has devices turned off, so they can't risk it more than this. So it's either you keep your devices turned off or you bring it to Iran and start your operations. It's you have no other way. So that helped them. But I think if they come to Iran and see if they could do their mining business here, so they would be more willing to keep it going, even in the bull market.
Well, yeah, like you're saying, well, there's just like this thing that we say on the show quite often, where it's like a lot of these heavily censored markets. It's like where we're starting to see Bitcoiners created because they're just in a situation where it makes so much more sense to be in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, like you were saying that you can make gas sales for transactions for neighboring countries, and they could end up getting the gas, and you don't end up receiving payment, and there's just all sorts of market transaction trouble there based on people's ability to actually transact with the value that they are in control of, and have that on a large enough macroeconomic level that it can actually do its job. And so I'm always kind of curious a little bit if like maybe there's like something with like I guess it's like large companies that, yeah, they're coming over there to invest. But I also just wonder if like maybe they're just forming connections as well with some of these neighboring countries, and they're creating these actual like marketplaces that wouldn't be able to function without it. And like they see it as a necessary part of what they need to do business. And do you think that is like a greater percentage of this uptick in miners is like people that are trying to create this market that can't function without it?
Yeah, exactly. So I've heard like people who've done like some research on how if miners like come to Iran, they may even improve uh, like the improve the grid and provide like smart grids and all of that for the whole power network in Iran. So this may even may have a positive effect on the quality of the economic situation of uh, uh, power and energy in Iran. I can't say that I see a very positive thing or a very noticeable thing, but it could start from at least very small scales.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Janine, you wanted to bring us into what's going on in the Iranian community there?
Well, we're talking about the Bitcoin community specifically, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, so I was kind of curious because, we've been talking about foreign services not really servicing people in Iran, and I was wondering if you could say whether more decentralized non-custodial options, except especially in the case of BISC as a decentralized exchange, if that's at all popular or used.
Well, BISC is not used right now, but I know. So I'm on the BISC Slack uh, page or group. I don't know what to call it. So I've seen an interest in like turning the interface into translating it into Farsi, so that people would try and use it and see and maybe even give feedback. Uh, so I think generally Bisq is not that popular in the whole world because it's a bit it's a bit not like decentralization. Decentralization does not go well with like convenience. So it needs to get better and better in the future. But I see the potential, and I know that it will be used. You were talking the last episode a couple of hours ago. You were talking about Hodl Hodl too. So I know that Hodl. I know for a fact because I helped them do that. So Hodl Hodl is adding a Farsi interface to the website. So because they know that people want to use such services that require less trust than a custodial service.
Yeah, like actually they need it, yeah, that's good to hear that, they're doing that, try and build that Farsi interface. And like the same goes with BISC. I know that yeah, it's not exactly the easiest barrier of entry for these decentralized projects, but I think maybe you were referring to that BISC DAO, where it's like there's a group of there's a community there, and they do developer calls, and there's developers that work on the platform, and it's a good group of people. And so it would be a good thing to just see like both those have a good availability and use in over there, because like we're saying, I mean, they really need something that's not so custodial to where people are worried about whether or not they're in this gray zone that's going to give them trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So where did we want to go next in the discussion here, Shinobi?
Well, I'm gonna hold Chris a branch here. You got any questions about the Bitcoin community in Iran?
Hi, good to meet you all. Can I get help? Can I get help with the pronunciation of Agast's name?
Ziya?
I've been listening. Ziya, thank you, Ziya. Thank you for being here. I was listening on my headphones. I couldn't make it early for reasons, but yeah, I find this topic very interesting. So currently, we're on the topic of the Bitcoin community inside of Iran. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I would be. Yeah, I would like to know a lot of things about that. Like, are there meetup groups? Physical meetup groups?
Well, there are meetups, but there are not meetup groups. There was this thing which started a couple of years ago. It was called Saturdays Decentral, and it was like there were meetups, very small meetups when it was first started. Then there were a lot of forks coming out of that, so a lot of people did different meetups. So nowadays we've got like different kind of brands. They have some kinds of like economical interests. There's one like blockchain community kind of thing, which holds meetups too, and the meetups are actually one of the best. So and like we actually had a meetup that day, or like a couple of days after the like Bcash hash war, to talk about like everything, reviewing all the Bitcoin and Bcash thing, starting from the start, from the early days and all of that. So we've got meetups, but it's not like that organized. We've got a very active and cool Telegram group. Yeah, just for your information, like most of the people and Iranian communities in every domain, in every field, not only Bitcoin and all of that, are using Telegram. So Telegram chats and Telegram groups. So they don't use like Reddit or, I don't know, meetup accounts, or they really use Twitter actually. So yeah, you see the picture. So that's why you may not find most of them, because they're on Telegram. But we've got a very active group. It's called Seymour. It's pretty difficult to pronounce, I think, for you guys. Which is kind of related, which is actually parallel. The name parallel with the name Phoenix in the mythology or something, but it's not the same thing. So this in the mythology of Iranian thing, this myth about this bird is refers to some kind of a decentralization or all of that. So that's why they use the name. And it's very cool group where we announce meetups there. So, and we added this to the list from that guy Crypto Kids, if you know him. He was with the Samurai Valley
yeah.
team before. Yeah. we added the list, added the group with his list of meetups before I told him about it. He was very enthusiastic about it to add it.
Man,
And yeah, it's mostly on Telegram chats and groups.
Yeah, I wanted to know, so what sort of people do you get at these meetups, and what kind of questions are they asking? What kind of things are they interested in?
Like it pretty much depends on the topic of the meetup, because it's not all Bitcoin meetups, but most of the questions, like you could imagine the sphere most countries is like either blockchain buzzword soup or shitcoinery and all of that. So you could see people who are interested like in getting like rich schemes and all of that, and you can see people like that in these meetups. But you could find the best people in the space in these meetups too. Like I found like most of the Bitcoiners I know, I met them in these meetups. So we had one meetup about like debating about Bitcoin. So actually debating about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and which was pretty interesting. And I was very, very surprised by the questions that people were asking. So they were very well aware of the like events from the user activated soft fork up to like SegWit activation and all of that. So there's hope. So there's hope among these people. So yeah, you could see. I think you could get the picture, but it's kind of still small. So
Yes. So
actually,
sounds like a regular Bitcoin meetup. It sounds like one that we would have in London.
Right.
Yeah. Just people are just kind of interested in, maybe they can make some money, and perhaps in certain parts of the world that's a little bit more justified than others. But are there business people coming to look for opportunities, or is it mostly
yeah,
individuals? Oh,
yeah, of course. There are some business people. Like actually, there are some businesses which try to go like toward blockchain stuff and all of that, and they like try to find talent. They try to find. Actually, this is very, very fine. Some of them try to be like get acknowledged by people in the meetups. So they try to find them and then invite them to just get their opinions on the blockchain projects and all of that. But yeah, you see, there are businesses interested, some changes and all of that.
A lot of attention, right, gets brought over the existence of sanctions, and I think we just need to just quickly remind ourselves of what economic sanctions actually are. Basically, I think it comes from the Spanish word. It means hindrance or something. Maybe someone can look it up. But essentially, it's ostracism at a political level. You're basically getting one government, particularly a powerful one like the USA right now, is trying to influence other governments and other groups of nation state actors to influence the decisions, particularly of businesses, in order to prevent them from interacting with a particular nation state. And normally, I believe that the US Treasury has like a sanctions list, has a list of particular individuals who cannot be sent money to. But what it essentially does for financial institutions is it raises their cost of business, of doing business in that particular country, because every business in that country and every individual that you deal with, you have to subject them to more know your customer KYC regulations. You have to vet them more. You have to do more due diligence. But actually, often there aren't that many people, I believe, that are on the sanctions list, like individuals. I mean, it's a large list, but relatively, given the number of people in Iran or another nation state, it's actually quite small. But the effect that it actually has on everyone in that country is profound, because then it gunks up all the supply chains that prevents things like medication, healthcare, things like that. And innocent people, many, probably more innocent people, get harshly affected by the existence of sanctions than the people that it's actually intended to impact, which is the political leaders. Is that a fair and accurate description?
Yeah, exactly. Like you cannot imagine the effect, the profound effect it has on people here. Like like everything is very much more expensive than you would like imagine if it comes from foreign countries. And like there's no way for us to interact or get them like in an easy way. There's no free market on such stuff. There are very few chosen people. We have a name for them in Persian. Like we call them like those who are born like with a privilege or something, which are born to like government officials and all of that who do a lot of like do the importing and all of that, and they have some kind of an exclusive right to serve you these services, and they do it very expensively. So you could see we cannot like sell goods to the foreigners to the outside world.
Right.
We cannot be kind of business. So we're tied.
So I think what's interesting philosophically is that the Bitcoin community sort of sees itself. The Bitcoin came into existence within a context of the global banking system in its heightened developed states, particularly if you think about the timeline of the digitization of money. I mean, probably before Barclaycard, but Barclays Bank invented the credit card, I believe, in the 1970s. Someone might be able to correct me on that. And ever since then, we've seen this hyper digitization of money, which then creates this kind of layer of information around the money that simply didn't exist with cash, because cash didn't have the property of existing in a database somewhere. So every time you transacted, you know, that banknote went into somebody else's hand. There wasn't really any strong way that we could track the flow of that money. When you start digitizing cash and money, of course, you have the opportunity now to persist all the personally identifiable information about the individuals transacting. And of course, that provided, I think, perhaps an unanticipated opportunity for governments to exert control. So if we define politics as something like, I don't know, the question of what we do now, given the balance of power, as these banks start reporting to governments and they start saying, well, look, you know, not only are we making frictionless payments and people can spend their money with a little tap of a piece of plastic, but we also have the opportunity to report back to you what they're doing. Of course, it creates a huge economic and political incentive to harvest that data. Countries and military leaders can now start to use that data to hurt enemies and aggressors. But I think what violates our sense of justice is when we see all the innocent bystanders that get affected by this club of kings and these leaders around the world who are all trying to fight. But we can also think of examples where sanctions were generally considered to be popular. For example, in South Africa in 1987, I think it was, I was 7 years old at the time, and I remember being taught a lot about the South Africa in my teens, because of course I was in school and we heard all about Mandela as it was unfolding. So those were some positive examples. But I think the problem that the Bitcoin community has philosophically is that essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to make money into a utility. That is to say, like water, where it's free from political influence. Like everybody needs water, everybody needs clean air. But what we're saying, I think, is that money falls into that same category. That everybody needs money in order to get their needs met, in order to have their futures, in order to have hopes and to be orientated towards their goals. And if you take that away, or if you start using the money to punish crimes, then it actually has a lot of, I think, unanticipated consequences. It starts to affect other people in the network too. And I think Bitcoin finds itself in a position where it wants to champion these particular use cases, like in Iran with the existence of those sanctions, and the ability, particularly the affordance to evade those sanctions. But I think if you're really truly committed to this idea of it being a utility, you should be radically neutral. I mean, you shouldn't be either for or against. You should be like, well, of course it can be used in Iran. I mean, that goes without saying. After all, we are building a utility. This money that we're creating, we're saying, is free from political influence. So you shouldn't either be positive or negative. But I don't know what Shinobi thinks or anyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah.
I get why everyone's excited. I get why everybody's excited, but I just wanted to put that into perspective. Maybe we should just be neutral, really excitedly neutral about it.
I mean, that's kind of like the whole like issue with money. You know, Blake Anderson is kind of the guy who really put this in this light in my mind. But, you know, if you look at negative versus positive rights, like the right to money or to transact, that is a positive right. That's not a negative right. That's not like, you don't fuck with me and my things. And the whole issue with Bitcoin is trying to establish that as a positive right in a way where it can't be taken away, where the thing actually settling my transfer of value is impartial, is that neutral thing. And it's not going to look at me any differently than anybody else in terms of whether or not it will allow me that positive right of transacting with my money.
Wait, that's a negative right. If you're saying that I have, I should have a negative right to money, right?
But it is a positive right to have something or somebody settle my movement of value requires.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah. Like if I go to a restaurant, it's my positive right to be able to spend and use my purchasing power in that restaurant. I mean, they don't actually have to serve me, right? If they don't want to take my money, is that what you mean? But the actual Bitcoin network, that's a negative right. No one should get in my way of using that, right?
See, that's what I'm saying. Like the Bitcoin network is itself a positive right for the Bitcoin network to settle your transaction. And the whole challenge is trying to architect it so that it, in effect, functions like a negative right, and that you can't be shut out from it.
Do you mean that the miners, do you mean that that's a positive right for a miner to include? Because that's correct, right? I have to include a transaction fee, I have to compete for that. But I have a negative right to the network data, don't I? So if I'm running a node, I have the negative rights to have access to all that information.
But see, if you want to go to the extreme, even that is a positive right. Because what if I don't want to give you data from my node? And so the whole challenge is to set it up so that it functions like a negative right, even though at its core it's not.
Okay, we need to get Blake on here then. I mean, I need to think about that a bit more. That's really interesting. And presumably I have a negative right to use public key cryptography. So the fact that I can use a private key, that kind of thing would fall under now. But I completely see what you're saying about access to the actual network would fall as a positive right. And also I would encourage you to think as technologists, all of you watching this, is a lot of the technology before Bitcoin really was a contrarian. It was bucking the trend. Most of the technology that we've seen in the last 15 or 20 years has been pretty ephemeral. It comes and goes. It goes through waves and stages. It doesn't, we don't really see a startup come along and then they exist for the next 20 years. We see startups come along, they get really hot for maybe a maximum of 4 or 5 years, and then they kind of fizzle out and a new trend picks up and takes over. But what Bitcoin did is it came along and it had this promise. It even gave us a timeline, a roadmap of 140 years that was embedded in its protocol design. And 140 years when you're talking about tech, I mean, are we going to remember Taylor Swift more than we're going to remember Bitcoin in 20 to 30 years? I mean, intuitively, I want to say we're going to remember Taylor Swift because in pop culture, we tend to, we remember people like Madonna, we remember the Beatles, we remember Elvis. But when you think about technology, it just seems so transient. But the thing about this high technology, especially this love of, and I've talked about it before, and I'll say it again, but it's neophilius, the neophytes, people who love novelty. They're never quite happy. They're never quite where they want to be. I think has kind of distorted for us what technology is. I'm looking around right now to see what I can use as an example, but all of this is technology. Bottles are technology, watches are technology, pencils are technology, but they've stood the test of time because they just do one thing really, really well. And I think that the problem that Bitcoin gives us and challenges us as human beings, these technology creating animals that we've been doing for tens of thousands of years, I think it challenges us to rethink what what technology is. And just because it uses bytes and fiber optic cable, and it uses all this high-tech infrastructure, doesn't mean it can't be an old-fashioned technology like shells that were used as currency, thousands of years ago. It's trying to be something that I think has existed for an extremely long time, which is the ability for humans to have a meeting of minds and want to help one another meet their means and their needs. And they find things that are of some value and have some scarcity and recognizable value, and they want to transact. And I think Bitcoin just gives people the ability to do that in this new continent that we call the internet, right? Mm-hmm. So it just, don't you feel that it challenges us? That it challenges us because it's not recognizable as high tech, because it has this roadmap, this implicit roadmap of 140 years. We're supposed to believe that this thing is going to outlive Facebook and it's going to outlive the MySpaces, right?
And yeah. I think that this kind of like framing of like the negative and positive rights and how that ties into censorship resistance, I think that's like a good framing for like the next question I kind of wanted to ask. And Ziya, like you interact a lot with like the wider like Bitcoin community, and so I kind of wanted to ask in Iran, sorry, like do you feel like there's kind of a larger interest in like privacy technologies or like things that can actually guarantee that censorship resistance than you see like in the wider global Bitcoin community? Are you cutting out or am I cutting out?
I'm hearing you fine. Ziya, I think we might have a mic issue with you.
Uh-oh.
Still radio silence.
Oh man, yeah, it's like I imagine that's the case, but hopefully we can get him back here in a second. I just wanted to comment real quick on what you were saying about this being a neutral technology and a utility everyone has access to. I really think that we are starting to see this aspect where we are sort of self-censoring ourselves. I mean, like we did that with the trust chain, and it's like before, where could you see that self-censorship in these sort of large macroeconomic transactions where we really couldn't partake unless you sort of went out on the edges to say, like, I need to wire some money to this person. Now it's so easy to do that. Now we are seeing like ourselves sort of find that place. Ziya, you back with us, man?
Yeah. Do you hear me now?
Yes, we do.
All right. Privacy tools.
So what? Yeah, privacy tools. So one thing to note is that people don't care that much about privacy while they should, but I could see the potential if privacy tools get better and easier to use. It like you see that blockchain, that shitty blockchain.info wallet is still very popular, not only on Iran, not only in Iran, everywhere. So maybe more people would use like Samurai wallet if it gets less glitchy, if it gets like more like easier to use. But definitely people need especially people from Iran need to use like more and more privacy tech on Bitcoin. I remember this fun thing about that time when the Treasury of United States declared those two Iranians as on the OFAC list and the on the OFAC I don't know what sanctions list and all of that, and they were very popular exchangers in Iran, and they were just doing their work, and I think you know the story that they were involved with exchanging bitcoins for like criminals, but like nobody asks where do you get this bitcoin. So but since they were very popular like Bitcoin sellers in Iran. So and there were a lot of people in the community who bought Bitcoin from these two guys, and they were on. Now you see the person who you bought Bitcoin from on the sanctions list. So there were a lot of people rushing to me and asking me on how to use like something like how to lose the trace of my Bitcoins to these guys and all of that. So that's when they felt the need, they came to me and they asked about like what to use, and I told them that you should just be fine and nobody's chasing you, but you should definitely use like something like wasabi all the time, because you should take this into account, and you should this is actually your right. You should do it by default. So it's not that when you get in trouble you want to use it, but you should use it by default all the time. Uh, so I see a lot of potential for privacy tools which are more convenient, but I know that these two don't go along very well. So I've been doing my part and trying to like educate the public and educate the people on this topic, but on how to use like privacy tools, and how to use technology on Bitcoin, which like something like CoinJoin or something like Wasabi, or and we've been anticipating actually Samurai to release their Farsi interface and their CoinJoin features. So yeah, I see a lot of potential for privacy, and I see a lot of use case for it. It's definitely important, very important. Yeah.
Yeah, so the education is an important point. Where I was trying to steer the conversation with the whole philosophy part was that if as a Bitcoin community we get very excited about these particular use cases because they kind of stick it to the man, that when you get an opportunity, you have something like what's happened recently with passing the torch and Lightning. And Lightning's a big trend in Bitcoin anyway, and it needs to get the publicity. As soon as you get a use case like this one, people get very animated, and you get people on both sides that either for or against. My position was that we shouldn't really be allowing ourselves, if I'm right about my assumptions to what we're really working towards, we shouldn't be allowing ourselves to get too euphoric about this. We should be neutral. And I think education is exactly the right pitch, because that's enough danger as it is. Surely there are implications for you and your safety if you're going around telling people essentially how to launder their money, dare I say, or launder their coins, mix their coins in the Wasabi wallet. Does that make you feel afraid? I mean, are you worried that something might happen if you do this?
Well, not exactly, because we're everything we do is considered like a concept like money laundering is like a one-way kind of a concept. Like it depends on who you're asking. So if you ask the United States, even when I buy like any commodity, actually any kind of thing, even if I buy something from Amazon or anything, that would be considered as money laundering, because I should go get around like verification and use another name from a foreigner or something to like create a Visa card and use that to buy and then ship it to another place and then get it from that place to Iran. So this is considered money laundering too. So anything is considered.
Crap, I think you just cut out again, Ziya.
Yeah.
So, like, is my voice breaking up?
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah.
So what was the last thing that I was saying?
You were saying like getting a friend to set up a Visa card for you would be considered money laundering. I think there is actually a legal definition, and there's also GAP, the global accounting standards and so on. And it's normally to do with like obscuring the origin of funds, particularly if they were used for illicit purposes. I don't think it's automatically illegal to ask somebody to buy something for you on Amazon. It really depends, I believe, on the purpose. Not an expert, but I think it's roughly something like that. So as a community, I really, what I'm trying to get to is how can we help? What I see our role is not so much as sort of cheerleaders for this, this sort of radical technology that is really, sticking it to the man, but more like if we have a clear philosophy and we have a definite purpose, what can we do to support that? Like, for example, education, and just giving people the tools so that they can decide what's right for them and using it in that particular context.
Yeah, actually, the same question has been like popping up in Iranian Telegram groups, which are like listening to this to this to this show right now. So they were asking that what do you give us as an advice as a community? We need to know your advice on how to carry on. And another thing is that if we assume that Iran is heading the Venezuela way because of all the inflation that we're having and all of that. So what should we do to be prepared for such a situation?
Well, I think you need support, because essentially, as engineers or even as technologists who are just business people, we have to be committed to providing this utility. Let's sort of see ourselves, Shinobi like this. Let's see ourselves as the governors of the network, right? We are essentially the government of Bitcoin, in the sense that we operate as governance. We're here to make sure that all the pipes are cleaned, that the water is flowing freely. And essentially what it sounds like you need help with is tech support. You need to educate people so that they can even make a decision, an informed decision about the trade-offs they want to make between convenience and technology. And the convenience, I think, and some of the challenges that people face using privacy tools. And we're really here to say quite adamantly that we're agnostic as to who's using it. That is our philosophy, that is our raison d'etre. And if the political system has a problem because politics is too tied up in money, that's its own issue. That's not our issue. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but I will say, you said the bad word.
What? Government?
Yeah, but
the context was okay. I wasn't blaming anything on the government, was I?
But it's Bitcoin doesn't have a government. You son of a son.
No,
of a
I said we're like. I mean, similarly, I said we were like we're the main. Okay, well then we're the gardeners. We're the maintainers of the system.
There.
We're looking after. We're not elected. Anyone can join. That's the difference, right? Like you don't have to ask permission to help. You can join at any time you like. I'm just trying to figure out, because I've got a bit of background. I've been following a little bit, and Janine has been filling me in. I understand that, for PR purposes, certain companies didn't want to support this handing over. I heard you talk about Charlie Shrem earlier on. Perfectly understandable from his personal situation right now, why he wouldn't want to pass the torch to a person in a sanctioned country. But this whole issue with the politics, that's their problem. Give unto Caesar. What is Caesar's? I don't care if they've got an issue with it.
I'm going to be a giant pessimist right now. But honestly, if Iran did follow in Venezuela's footsteps in terms of massive hyperinflation, there's really only two things you can do. Keep as much of your money as you safely can in Bitcoin and get ready to leave, or figure out how you're going to deal with things when they get bad. I mean, Venezuela is literally people are on the verge of starvation there. There's a lot of things I've seen there using Bitcoin to try to bypass government controls or problems introduced with the currency. There were literally people who were taking Bitcoin and buying massive amounts of food over Amazon through Purse.io and shipping it to Ecuador and then smuggling it over the border into Venezuela. I mean, it really sucks. And if things go that way for you guys, believe me, I will feel bad for that. But there's not really much you can do except either leave or try to see how you can use Bitcoin as a way to get the things that you have trouble getting, like food, like resources you need. And I mean, it's really just, those are the choices if things get that bad. And I mean, there's not really much anybody can do about it except on a personal level and, you know, see what they can actually accomplish. It just sucks.
Yeah, it's hard to say if that's the route it's going, but for sure, the whole meetups and education is key to building like a network to where if that sort of thing does happen, you've got like a backup network of people that are knowing how to operate with this technology to where those sort of headaches could at least be minimalized before it happens. But yeah, I mean,
Well, you need people, you need experts on the ground. So first of all, you need to educate educators. So people that are in these particular regions need to be tooled up. Any IT experts in the particular country we're talking about can be trained up by an outside expert if they need it, and then they can then in turn give support to people internally. I definitely have, I think I've always seen, ever since I started listening to Andreas in 2013, believe that it will not be the West that will really create Bitcoin's strength. It will be developing countries. It will be countries that are struggling. Because let's not forget the extraordinary waste of human capital that exists inside of these countries because people don't choose where they're born. None of us do. So you end up with lots and lots of innocent people who have all this potential. It doesn't matter where you're born. Everyone has hopes and dreams. And if you're cut short by your circumstances, and it's all because of some politics maybe you don't even agree with, but you have to suffer just because of your geography, then of course I'm always going to want to support somebody who has, actions and intentions that I believe in. My position is that we need to help with education.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely, because we've seen.
No, so sorry. Go ahead, Ziya.
Yeah, I want to say definitely because like there's very few good content producers in the Bitcoin sphere in Iran, and it's very like it lacks the like the activity that I see in the Bitcoin sphere because like in the Bitcoin Twitter or in the Bitcoin subreddit and all of that, you see a lot of content, a lot of people, and there's it's a very small community here, and there's a big lack of like content and like good quality content actually. The thing that's Chris said about like educating the educators, like I know for a fact I've seen a lot of people who like hold I don't know events for teaching people about Bitcoin, and they like take money from them to teach them, and like they just tell them use like this shitty blockchain info wallet and do away with it and use it for their and that when like I've seen a lot of people lose money because of that. There's not much good content, and we need a lot of education uh, regarding Bitcoin in Iran, regarding the correct use of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, it's to kind of build a little bit about what I said. Like, Bitcoin isn't a magic solution to anything. It's just another tool, and you have to figure out how to use that tool and how it can benefit you. Like, it's not going to do anything in and of itself. It's going to do something to a specific goal if you use it to accomplish that goal. And I mean, that's something like people need to really wrap their head around. Like, just sitting here and doing nothing, that doesn't accomplish anything. Like, what are you here to accomplish? What are you trying to get out of this? What use does this tool have for you? Figure that out and then use it.
I think the biggest enemy here is actually a lot of it is just like profit-seeking behavior, the whole hype and the craze. Because I struggled with that early on as well, in like, you know, with the altcoins and the Bitcoin talk forum. There's too many people who are just trying to get rich quick, and they weren't really interested in long-term self-interest around actually, you know, tooling themselves up, educating themselves properly. A lot of people thought, oh, I've got to learn to become an engineer, and of course that's not the project at all, but you should learn a certain literacy. And I think I'm hearing it as well from Ziya that there are people there that just want to, like, you know, the altcoin space, and they want to kind of get rich quick by the sounds of it. And whilst that might be perfectly justified given their economic circumstances, you do have to, you know, I think what Plato said, you do have to be ready for them as a teacher, and when they're ready, they will come. And you have to layer your teaching and your education in a way that a curious person will understand. A curious person will want to unpack the layers, and they will go wherever their enthusiasm takes them. But you have to, I think, cater the teaching in the right way. For example, obviously not teaching about blockchain.info and starting from the basics and first principles, and making sure that people understand that the reason they're learning is because this helps them, and then they can pass that knowledge on to somebody else. So that's sort of where I think our priority should be as a community right now. It's that kind of thing.
I agree on that.
So what do we want to do? So we're an hour and a half into the show. I mean, I thought I could do this again, you know, another time if we want to have another show. We can lay out an agenda and we can have questions from the chat.
Yeah, it would be very cool too. So I wanted to add some stuff about the like Bitcoin startups in the sphere and all of that. So
yeah, go ahead.
So we've got like some like exchanges here in Iran. They are either exchanges like not in the sense of like Bitfinex or BitTrex and all of that, or Binance. They are mostly like Bitcoin sellers. There are OTC desks. There are some trading platform which are more like Binance and all of that. So there are people doing mining. That's not a that's an obvious thing. We even got a Trezor knockoff here in Iran. So you could like imagine some how some people like have ideas about like building wallets which may prove to be cheaper and more accessible than Trezor. And like we've got one tourism startup which offers like debit cards using, and you could like book your whole trip into Iran using Bitcoin, and you could like top up your balance for debit card with Bitcoin on the go anywhere you are. So we've got like some remittance potential, and I know some people who use Bitcoin for remittance for their like acquaintances and for the family and friends who are like abroad, or they receive money from them this way. So this is another thing that Bitcoin is used nowadays, like have been used in Iran. I see a lot of interest from small businesses and medium-sized businesses to use Bitcoin because like they can handle Bitcoin better than bigger like institutions and all of that, like with big numbers. They may be afraid of Bitcoin, but smaller businesses like are trying to embrace Bitcoin and use it. They're trying to gain more info on it nowadays, and this is actually more because this is more due to media, like the media is constantly like rooting for Bitcoin, saying like it could it like actually go around sanctions or anything and all of that, and people like would say, well, I can't do transactions to abroad, so let's go and be educated about Bitcoin and maybe see and if it can can be used.
Can
There's
I
one thing,
I just wanted to say,
one last thing
yeah.
is
Sorry, go ahead.
freelancers. Like there are a lot of people as freelancers who like see the potential because like they get way more money when they work with foreigners than they work in Iran because like labor is very cheap here in Iran. So they've seen the potential of Bitcoin, and I know that the number is growing for people for freelancers who use Bitcoin nowadays for to get paid working.
You know what I think you should do is you should really be promoting the purpose of those individuals that want to use Bitcoin and telling the world, this is why we want to use Bitcoin, because I'm a freelancer and I can make money and I can become financially independent. And if you champion that message, you take it all away from this politically charged content around sanctions, and you make it about the individuals, the innocent people in these countries that are being negatively affected. And in a way, if you just focus on those people, their hopes, their dreams, their ambitions, why do I want to use Bitcoin? And it's because I want to achieve something. I want to do something in my life. I want to get an education. I want to go to university. I want to become a plumber, a teacher. I don't care what it is, as long as it's not illegal. People should believe and people should understand why this is important. And I feel like at the moment, to speak like a PR person that was quoted the other day, you're not taking charge of the conversation. I don't mean you personally, I mean in general when I've been hearing about it. And I think the more that you pander to this sort of media circus around, you know, this sort of civil war, they love this versus this and this team versus that team, and they love talking about conflict, the more I think you just get caught up in all of the negative associations with certain countries and certain ethnicities, which really are just very unhelpful. So that's kind of what I would like to suggest, I guess. Just make it about the people.
Yeah. So there's been one guy in the Iranian community telling me that he's listening to you. So he said that like one thing that may help Iranian communities is that you like Bitcoiners and people who produce content about Bitcoin give out the right for their content to be all translated freely, and
oh yeah,
it's more like
every single thing on this channel is Creative Commons. As long as you are not making money off of it, you can take it and you can do whatever you want with it, post it wherever you want. Like,
yeah, I see. He means like more and more Bitcoiners would like follow in your footsteps and do such a thing, and like this like either they give us the right or not. People may, if they want, they would like translate it and use it, but when said, it would be like a shout out to people to come and like just translate this and use it.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I'm going to ask some questions from the chat as well. We're an hour and a half in, and like I said, I'm really happy to do this again. But one question we had, Ziya, was can you trade on local Bitcoins in Iran? I mean, is it illegal, or what sort of freedoms do you have to just trade in and out of crypto and fiat?
Well, yeah, you could do that. It's in the gray space or gray area because there's no like legal thing. Like there's no legal position from the central bank of Iran or any other like regulators right now. But there's a draft that came out just very recently, like about a month ago, that says that like, you can use Bitcoin as a method of payment inside of Iran. And it's a draft. It's not. It's still not finalized, and it's not a law right now. And yeah, so people are using local Bitcoins right now, and the only thing about local Bitcoin is that some people are afraid that it would like confiscate their money at one point, And another thing is that it's you need to use a VPN because it's blocked. So the government knows about local bitcoins, and it has blocked the access of varying IPs to it. So you need to use a VPN and all of that. So this is the only two things that, and most local Bitcoin sellers you do a KYC, a simple KYC procedure, just to like protect themselves from like stolen fiat money being deposited into their bank accounts. For, like I don't know. Yeah, it's like that right now. The situation with local Bitcoins in Iran.
Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Shinobi, did you have anything?
I'm pretty much plumbed out of questions. I mean, I think we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks very much for inviting me on as well. It's great to have the opportunity to be here.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Janine, Rick, you guys got anything else to ask?
Nothing really to ask. Just really enjoyed the conversation, and you know, hopefully we can have some more of these, because I think these could be very helpful in the future. It'd be great to have you back on sometime.
Janine?
Yep, I second that. These conversations are way better than a lot of the conversations that I see happening in other crypto media spaces.
So yeah, I guess, you know, is there anything you want to end on, Ziya? Like any last comments or things you want to say?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity that you gave me to be here, and I really enjoyed this conversation with you. I would like to see a more active Iranian community in the global Bitcoin sphere, and I hope we get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much a global network we're trying to build. I mean, it's going to do no good if everybody just fragments off in their own islands. But, you know, it was awesome having you on, Ziya. You know, actually, we like actually getting as close to the source of things as possible when we, you know, talk about or discuss things. And it's always great to actually have somebody from somewhere we're talking about to give, you know, an actual personal perspective on things rather than just speculating on headlines and things like that. So thank you again for coming on, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. So there's one friend that says that they would love to have you here in Iran, and it's very, very okay for non-Americans to come to Iran, and I think Americans can come too, but they would have like a bit of problem going back to the US. So so they're given an invite. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to travel. Just gotta wait for Bitcoin to start creeping back up again. I kind of burned through my budget for the year. All right, well, I guess that about wraps it up, folks. Thanks again, Ziya, and hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
of course, thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
adios, everybody, and thank you for watching.
Ciao.
Hey, everyone.